Welcome. This is part 3 of an 8-part teaching series designed to support those who have an affinity to the light and who are working with light and bringing that to bear here on planet Earth at this time. My name is Richard, and I warmly welcome you into this space. And if this is your first time here, then I would warmly encourage you to take a look at the introductory video link below, which sets out the structure and context of this 8-part journey that I'm seeking to lead us upon as guidance and support, both for myself and for those who resonate with this resonance of teaching and guidance. To set this space, I just invite us to take a couple of deep breaths and relaxing into the heart space, committing oneself fully to be here now. Opening and softening to receive the theme of today's teaching. Which is entitled The Lighthouse Keeper, the Pathway of Devotion. Now, if you've been following the journey through part 1 and part 2, you will see that I've been setting the scene, speaking to the prophecy of our current age, the prophecy of rebirth. And then last time I talked about the characters, the 3 different aspects of the human self that are expressed both within ourselves and at the world at large. The aspects that are already awake, the aspect that is awakening, and the aspect that is still needing more time to sleep. And the role that light can play in moving and shaping the story that those 3 aspects move through. Light as a transformative force. And I finished last time with a question of willingness, and how much we welcome that light into our lives, and how willing we are to change, how willing we are to embrace that aspect that is already awake, and to open to receive more of that grace and that beauty. And to let that permeate more into our lives. The moments of deep awe and inspiration. And how much are we willing to bring light to the part of us that is waking up and guiding that aspect on its journey and directing its energy and its creation to the new world, rather than being distracted and heavily engaged in the world that is dying, where we can get stuck and absorbed in very easily. Whereas light comes in to pull and push us into that creative space of the new. And lastly, what does light do to the parts of us that are still sleeping, that need more time, that need more rest? How do we allow those parts to heal, to feel safe? Now, when we say yes to that willingness to change and to move the story out of the dark ages to bring about transformation, in the beginning it can have a very romantic appeal to it, an intoxicating delight. To the feeling of waking up, to the feeling of grace and beauty, and to feel the freedom that comes when we shed layers of density from our being, when we love ourselves more. And I speak personally here from a time in my life where I was just in a place of sabbatical, having left a job in London back in 2009 and entering my door of transformation and really committing and saying yes to the light. And venturing to a community and a place in Scotland where souls had been consciously anchoring that light for nearly 4 or 5 decades at that time. And it was a very intoxicating experience to enter into that field, surrounding myself with other souls committed to real transformation in their lives. And I went to that place as a very kind of serious and strict young man, a dedicated monk, I would say, very hard and devout in trying to use my spiritual practice to get to some perfect state. Very kind of rigid in a sense. And my transformation at Findhorn, the place I'm speaking of, led to this great softening, a more gentle, heart-centered way of engaging with the spiritual path. And in that experience, I moved from being a celibate, single-minded individual to someone who was willing to embrace being in an intimate relationship. And not only that, but moving from my home country, the United Kingdom, my homeland, to supporting this relationship on the other side of the world, here in Australia, where I sit today. And going down the path of marriage and now having two beautiful sons and becoming a father. That for me was a total transformation of character. That is what light did for me. Because it is here now in Australia that my life has the greatest growth and learning than what a path of celibacy would have given. And that was a romantic story that I went through. And that is what draws us in when the light first shines on the dark ages. We're like the moths to the flame. We are drawn to it. But once you've kind of been a tourist of the Lighthouse, once you've visited a while, you realize that that is not enough to sustain one. Indefinitely. One's commitment to the light must move deeper. Into the path of devotion. And one takes on the role of the lighthouse keeper. Which is a beautiful image and metaphor, I feel. When you think to the past and the commitment it would have taken to be a lighthouse keeper in the day. Often living in very harsh, wild places in the world. Miles from nowhere. Taking your family to this very harsh, wild land and trying to settle there. Very dedicated souls would have taken that on. Purely for the sake of doing the work to keep the light shining and keeping the coastline safe for those who are passing through the waters there. The dedication to venture into that lighthouse day in and day out and tending to the mechanisms, tending to the structure. And when you become the lighthouse keeper, it marks the end of romance. And you enter into a very different relationship with the lighthouse. what that marks is the discovery of the depths of shadow work, the depths of grief that need to be healed. Transformation is not just a one momentary flash, an experience, but it's a long, winding road. And once you're on that road, it's not easy to go back into the dark. And it takes a lot of stamina and strength to cultivate an intimate relationship with the most awakened part of ourselves. Which, when you go into the shadow work and the shadow lands, is often not close at hand. The light worker is one who chooses often the hardest path. Rather than staying close to that bliss and that awe and that beauty. The light worker is the one who is devoted to bringing that quality and that flavor and that essence to those people and those places where that feels so far away. And your desire is to bring it closer to them, closer to the earth. So that is the work of the lighthouse keeper. Because one can just sit in a forest, sit on a mountaintop, in your deepest meditation, and enjoy that experience as a tourist, of the light, and get to that point where that is not enough, where your desire for service and love and compassion is so deep that you want to bring that to bear into this world and onto this land, and to birth that higher resonance and frequency into every aspect of creation here. Now there are two roads we can go down with this devotional path. The unfolding journey. And it depends which soul group you are most aligned with. If you're part of the soul group that kind of is going through the waking up process out of the sleeping state, then the devotional path takes you on a particular journey through that. And it's the journey ultimately out of the field of judgment, where your energy and your focus is fully aligned and devout to the world you want to create. And you're moving through a journey out of distraction. And I'm speaking here specifically to this concept called the woke culture, which is the training ground through this. The woke culture is waking up, and yet there is so much judgment, so much distraction, so many opinions and ideas. And there's a need there to evolve and grow into a more detached space where you're observing and witnessing and minding your own business in a way, becoming a master of your energy and focus. And the Sufi poet Rumi really encapsulated this in one poem, where he said that out beyond ideas of right and wrongdoing, there is a field, and I will meet you there. And that field is the heart. And that is what the woke culture and those on that path of awakening need to enter eventually. Leaving behind the addictions to the social media platforms and the opinion pieces. Beautiful journey of growth there, and shadow work. But this Lighthouse, this Lightworker teaching series is not going to go down that road, but is going to take a different road. And I want to speak to those souls who were already awake before they came here. Those souls from distant parts of the cosmos who had the desire to bring their unique frequency and vibration to planet Earth. Those who do not need to play the game of the Matrix. They're not interested in the dance of that world. Their desire is just to simply anchor the frequency of the new. And as I said before, these souls enter planet Earth through the gate of shock. And that marks their journey, their shadow work. Because imagine being in part of a play, a character on stage, and you walk onto that stage and you've been practicing your lines for weeks, months, years. And then under the glare of the lights, you freeze. And that is what it is like to come to planet Earth through the gate of shock. You freeze under the lights. Feels like you forget all your gifts and talents, your commitment to be here. It just goes. And then the audience begin to laugh as you stand there on stage, frozen, which triggers the feeling and the experience of shame. And that shame is what we'll be looking at in the next two teachings. And then there's a lot of anxiety around that shame. And then there's a journey of initiation that one must go through to heal all of that. And that is the path that I want to take us down for the rest of this series. Supporting those of us that did hold a unique message and gift for planet Earth. And I am here to encourage and champion that to come forth at this time. Because the Earth needs that message. The souls here need that message to move the story forwards. And it takes more than being a tourist for that to happen. We need to go to those wild places and have that strength and determination as the keepers of the light. So just sinking into that, if that resonates, if you feel that freeze experience, if you carry that shame and anxiety and are on that journey, it's part of my journey and it's part of what I'm here to teach about for myself and for the whole. And with that, I complete today's teaching with much love and blessing. Thank you.